2-valve,
Yeah.
single cam, right?
Ancient thing for its time. You know, it was a '60s tech single overhead cam motor. I love this because for my generation, this was the sports sedan. First time I was ever in one was sideways with my friend's dad, who was a race instructor.
Yeah.
And the sound of this engine bouncing off the rev limiter in the snow. Ba, 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 ba.
Welcome to that edition of Jay Leno's Garage. Car featuring today 1990 BMW 325i Touring. This is a very rare car, especially here in America, because it has, I guess, quote, the station wagon body on it. Boy, a good looking car. I think this is a pretty much timeless design. You know, people look at this, they don't own cars, and go, is that 2 years old? No, it's like 30 years old. And oh, they're stunned, you know. This one belongs to our good friend Jason Cammisa. You've seen him on the Haggerty channel, all his videos. Jason, come on in. How long have you had this?
23 years.
Oh, wow.
But
okay.
who's counting?
Okay, 23 years. Okay.
I was 3 years old when I got it.
I was going to say, yeah.
You were in your teens.
I was probably 40, yeah. Actually, I was 40, now I think of it. You know, I like this era of BMW. I worked at a place called Foreign Motors in Boston, and we had a lot of German cars. The TII, the 2002, the CLS Coupe, those were unbelievable cars to me, to be able to drive one of those. Especially the CLS Coupe with that 6-cylinder engine, silky smooth like a turbine. It just, if you weren't watching the tach, you hit the red line every time because it was so great. So these are always driver's cars. And this was built under the Bob Lutz era, correct?
Yeah, it was engineered right at the end of Bob. I mean, Bob had his fingers in everything.
But he was BMW in Germany, not just the US, right?
Yeah.
He's the man who came up with the idea of the ultimate driving machine, which is still the best slogan ever, really, when you think about it.
Even if it's not so true.
Well, when are things ever true? So how did you acquire this? You didn't get this here in America, did you?
No, I was in Germany on vacation with a friend, and he bought a car, and I thought that was done. And he said, no, misery loves company, you're buying one too. And so I wanted, my whole life I'd wanted an E30.
Right.
And then I thought, if I'm gonna have one, it's gonna be a 325 with the biggest motor.
Right.
And it might as well be a wagon.
Right.
Just because wagons are cool.
Right.
I found it on a farm outside of Stuttgart, and the rest is history.
It sounds like the same phony story here in America. It was in a barn on a farm.
Okay.
By a woman who just grew kale and didn't have any animals. You know,
Okay, I'll qualify that.
Yeah.
It was on a farm outside of Stuttgart, covered in horse poo.
Oh.
And it was filthy and it stunk.
Oh, all right.
Does that make it more real?
The equivalent in my era was we got a car, a guy died in it. It's a Corvette. They can't get the smell out. It's $300. And
yeah, same thing.
that ad used to run like once a year in the newspaper, and every kid would call it, you know, and it'd be some guy playing a stupid trick. You know.
I paid 1,500 euro for it because the guy couldn't afford gas or registration. Registration in Germany is done by displacement.
Right.
And you know, a 2.5-liter engine, ooh, so big.
That's the big block.
That's the big block.
Yeah.
And so it was worthless because it was, you know, a gas hog.
Well, that's interesting. Why did he buy it?
Who knows? He was the 5th owner. I mean, the car was only 12 years old and had 5 owners at that point. I think everyone bought it for thrills, and then.
And how many miles on it when you got it?
229,000 kilometers. So what?
Oh,
200.
oh,
So quite a bit.
Okay. So obviously well used.
Yeah. The guy who ordered the car initially must be my hero, because he bought every performance enhancing option and nothing else. So no air conditioning, no power windows, no cruise control, nothing, just the biggest motor, M Sport pack, and a sunroof.
And a 6-speed manual.
5-speed.
Oh, it's a 5-speed
five
manual.
back there.
Okay.
That's it.
Wow, okay. Well, that's a lot of miles. I thought you were going to say 15,000 or something. But
No.
in Germany, they drive them.
No, they drive. I mean, these were workhorses. These
Yeah,
were, you know,
yeah.
people bought them for their families and
Okay.
hauled horse poo around, apparently.
And getting it here in America, did it come out as a gray market, or how does
It's
that
a gray
work?
market.
Right.
The nice thing about a 325i Cat, which was its own model in Germany, is that it's exactly the same powertrain as the US car.
Oh, so it meets all emissions.
Meets all US emission stuff. It's just a 325i with a big butt.
But they never sold the wagon here in the States.
Never sold the wagon anywhere in North America.
Which is odd. You think Minnesota, New England, I mean, you think all, because the TIIs and the 2002s, you know, every Vermont English professor with earth shoes and a pipe bought one of those, you know. And you'd think, oh, the wagon version would be even more desirable in Vermont, but
I would think so.
Yeah.
But here's the interesting thing about the wagon, it was never part of the product plan. So E30 came out as a two-door sedan, as they called it. Then it became a four-door sedan.
All right.
And the wagon idea actually came from a BMW employee. The BMW Classic made a video on this guy years ago. He had a kid. He wanted to go travel with the kid, but didn't want a bigger car. And so he grafted the C-pillars from the sedan onto the edge of the trunk and made one. He just made a car, parked it at work. Everyone saw it and said, hey, what's that? And he gave it to the design studio, and they copied his work effectively and put it into production.
It's interesting to me you could get that registered in Germany because they're so strict about any modification.
That's a good point. I don't know how he did it.
Huh?
Maybe he didn't. Maybe that's why he brought it into work and said, you know, hey, can you guys copy this?
And they get out
But
of
they-
here. Come on.
You can't change a windshield wiper blade without permission in
Well,
Germany.
that's what I mean in Germany. It's so strict. But the guy did order the sunroof, so that's a...
This guy was, I mean, he knew what was up.
Yeah,
You need to have, listen, with no air conditioning, you need to have some way of getting air through here at, you know, 200.
So how did you find it? Were you reading Horse Poo magazine? There was a BMW in the back. I mean, how did you...
No, it was, I mean, back in the day, it was, I have the newspaper ad still. It was just an ad in a newspaper. And my buddy Mike was like, hey, look, a blue wagon. It's a 325i Cat. And I'm like, no, I'm not, what am I going to do with it? You're going to ship it home. I don't want a blue car. I don't want a blue wagon. Whatever. And we went and looked at it. I saw the color. And I was like, okay, and at that price.
Well, yeah, it's blue. What did you think of? Why did you not
I thought
want
it was
blue?
going to be like some light metallic, like your shirt, kind of like. No, I mean, this color didn't exist in the U.S. on these cars, so I never expected.
Really? It seems like the most common blue. I don't look at it and think, oh, I've never seen that before.
I
mean, I would almost testify that I saw these in this color. You know, that's how innocent men go to prison. You just get something in your mind. But oh, that's interesting. Okay. Now, when you take it around, are people stunned that it's a wagon?
This is a really weird experience because back in the day, driving it around, 99.9% of people were oblivious to it.
Right.
And then that remaining 1/100th of 1% of people would lose their minds.
Right.
Like literally had to tackle a guy once at a car show who wouldn't leave it alone and wanted my VIN so he could find out how to buy it from me. I mean, people just went crazy over it most of the time. Now though, it's so old and it's so little and it looks so different on the road that people really
But they never built a two-door wagon, always a four-door. And it's also the normal 325i wheelbase, correct?
Yeah, it is 100% identical, which is wild, from the window line down all the way to the bumper. So the rear bumper is identical to the sedan.
Right.
The rear fenders, I mean, if you could cut them off, are identical. Everything is identical other than...
So is this one 100% stock?
100% not.
Right.
It's got, so originally it was a 2.5 liter with 167 US horsepower. There's a little trick you can do to punch it out to 2.7. Gives it about 185 horsepower with just a lot more torque. These were single cam, 2-valve per cylinder engines, and they're dead under $4,000.
Right.
And you have this wonderful window from 4,200 to 6,200 where it's a psychopath. And then the rest of the time you're floored, crying and begging for power.
Right.
The 2.7 solves that. And then this one has suspension on it. Suspension and steering. So just, you know.
Is it all BMW suspension steering or is it aftermarket stuff?
Steering comes from an E36, a later car. And then the suspension is just shock springs. It used to be full race, so I got to wrap my head. It's just now aftermarket shocks and springs.
Okay. But normal BMW stuff, nothing. It's something anybody who had a 325i could do.
This is a kit you can get online for.
Well, let's open the hood and see what we got here.
Okay.
It's on my side, is it?
It's on your side. It opens backwards, which means, you know, we get to block
down?
all the camera guys.
Down here. Oh, here it is. Here we go.
Are you ready for the angels to sing?
Oh yeah, I remember when.
So, you know, this engine was nothing special, which is interesting.
Right.
You have, on the one hand, I'll never forget Car and Driver's quote. Art St. Antoine wrote, if I could sing like the engine in the new BMW 325i, I would pack Carnegie Hall.
Right.
And yet, it's a single cam, 2-valve per cylinder, basic design dates back to the 60s, nothing special motor.
Right. And this is a massive brace here. I mean, most are, you know, just a like that.
Not stock.
Oh, that's not
That's
stock.
not stock, yeah. So this, I originally turned this into a spec E30 race car
Right.
in suspension. But you know, when you're 80s cars were not the most strong chassis-wise.
Right.
So anything I could do to sort of beef it up and reinforce
Okay,
it.
well that's impressive. I always liked the way they did this fuse. You could just look and see whether the idea you have to get under it with a flashlight and take off having the see-through cover. It's great. You go, oh, okay, well the fuses all look fine, and you don't have to bother with it. Yeah.
It's easy to work on, but for the hood.
Huh.
To do anything, I just did a timing belt on it, and the easiest thing to do is take the hood off
Right.
and put it on the roof.
And how many miles have you put on it?
35,000.
Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah.
Ish.
After rebuilding the motor, correct?
This is motor number, who's counting?
Oh, okay, so it's not
so
too
this, yeah, I've put there only 40,000 miles. I can't do math. What's 229,000 kilometers in miles?
that would be about 145,000 miles.
Okay, so yeah, it's at it's 170s now.
Yeah,
30,000 miles. I don't let this car see rain. They rust so easily.
Yeah.
The wagons especially, because they were never designed. They were never engineered to be wagons.
Right.
And so the whole rest of the car is usually okay, minus the floor pan where they all rust. But the whole back end, 3 drops of water and it turns to dust.
So that's what makes California the place to be.
Yeah.
Because now we have so much water, but
Right.
but
it will be in drought again momentarily.
Yeah. Okay. And brakes are stock.
Brakes are stock.
Okay.
These cars don't need much. So out of the box, honestly the only real problem with them is that the steering was 4 turns lock to lock.
Right. Okay.
And they're ass happy. They love to be sideways.
Right.
And trying to catch one of these cars in a sudden breakaway situation,
Right.
You're crashing. And so the trick there is you got to put a quicker ratio steering in it, just so you can catch it if you start to skid.
Is that what you've done?
That's what I did.
Okay. And what is that out of?
This one is out of a Z3 1.8.
Oh,
1.9 or an E36 M3. You know, the steering racks go, and mine started to leak. You just get whichever one you can get that's from a modern car
Right.
that bolts right in.
So BMW makes everything you need.
BMW Classic supports these cars fairly well. You can get parts
Yeah.
for them, which is nice. And you know, like most cars, they're Lego puzzles. So you can get newer stuff kind of bolts right in.
Right. Okay. Very nice. Well, let's put this back down. And you slide it
And you
forward.
slide it forward, yeah. Right.
Okay.
Ta-da.
Very good. What else do we have here? Let's see. Anything around the back?
The back is the.
It doesn't look like the rear seats have ever been sat in. The fronts have some nice patina to them, but the rears are.
This is another, like, don't buy a car in your 20s and then keep it for 20 years because you do things you regret for decades.
What did you do?
It originally had cloth seats in it and they smelled like horse manure.
Right.
So I pulled them out and I bought leather sport seats for the front.
Right.
And then there was no way to get, in the US especially, there was no way to get rear seat covers. So I had those refinished
Oh.
in a vinyl that almost matches, but
Oh.
doesn't. So you're
It's
looking
like,
at,
it's like pleather.
yeah, that's what it is.
You know, it looks fine. It looks great.
Yeah, but if doing it now, I would have done the fronts to match. But you know,
Well, that's
I was,
all right.
I was 20.
That's all right.
The back is the interesting part because in the magazines in Germany, they always measured lift over height with how high. Of course, this is Germany.
Right.
How high you have to lift a case of beer.
Right.
Not kidding. To get into the trunk.
Right.
And so what they did was they cut out in between the taillights to cheat.
For the case of beer,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. Of course, they're Germans. So we take the Bierkisten, we take all this and we put it in the trunk,
Ah, yeah.
and then we go and drink all night.
Yeah,
Or day.
very good. Yeah, that seems very responsible. But I just like that's why it's cut out that way. So,
Makes it easier to get in.
but I like the idea that they keep it low, so you don't have to get it up over the. I always hate that about American station wagons. You had to get it up over the tailgate. You know.
You should have owned one of these back in the day.
I know. Well, I couldn't get one. You couldn't get them here.
Good point.
Yeah, I had to go to Germany, you find horse poo, dig through it until you found the BMW.
Yeah, but there would have been beer in the trunk.
That's true. That's true.
As a reward.
And that's a big rear window. Boy, that's a big piece of glass. That had to be custom made, obviously.
They, the crazy thing is, when I repainted this car 10 years ago after I hit a deer.
Oh, okay.
And I was able to get a new hatch and new glass, which is like from BMW, which is unbelievable.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know how, when this guy Max Reisbuck was his name,
Right.
when he made his, I don't know what he made that glass out of, but there are pictures of the prototype around and it looks just like that. Pretty amazing.
Oh, interesting. All right. Well, can we take it for a ride?
No.
Oh, tough break.
Let's go.
Let's give it a shot. Oh, these really are sports seats, aren't they? Oh, comfortable though.
Let's see. It wants to hug you.
Yeah, I'll go touring, yeah.
Yeah. There's beer at the back.
The big kissing.
I have one request
Yeah.
for you driving this car. Don't be nice to it.
Oh, all right.
I don't actually have a request. I'm just joking.
I used to love the TII. That was a great car when I was a kid.
These are very, if you look at how they're constructed, very similar to 2002s. It's an evolution.
Oh, it's a wonderful motor, isn't it? Boy, it does it.
It's a happy little thing.
And what kind of horsepower are you getting on this, do you think?
About 180.
Boy, it's a light car, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
2862.
that's not bad.
No, but you know, because no air conditioning and
Right.
cranky windows and no structure.
You know, I thought these days the electric window assemblies actually weighed less than the hand crank.
Nowadays they do.
Nowadays they do, yeah, but...
Back in the day, you see the motors for these guys in there. Yeah.
Well, my Mercedes 600, there was no motor that could pull that big window down, so they went with the hydraulic. There's 2,300 pounds of hydraulic pressure that works the window. And when you take the window switches, are like 11 grand a piece because they each have two pistons with little tiny piston rings that work. I mean, it's the most complicated thing. But the window moves silently and swiftly. It's like a guillotine.
Guillotine, yeah. I love watching the trunk lids on those 600s. Bam!
Yeah, what is a lot of fun to drive. Is there any modern BMW that's equivalent to? Do they make a manual anymore? I know they still make them, but
Only M cars.
only
Only M cars.
Okay,
But
so you can get them.
Yeah, but there's nothing naturally aspirated anymore. And, you know, there are no sweet straight sixes anymore. They're violent, turbo sixes.
Right. But we've reached a point where turbos almost seem like naturally aspirated because there's no lag, you know?
There is, you're right, but you don't get the induction noise.
Right.
You don't get, there's a personality to these things that just, I think we've lost. Or maybe I'm just getting old. So you've never driven an E30?
Not that I can recall. I mean, I probably have, but I just don't remember. I'm just trying to think.
I love this. I love this because for my generation, this was the,
Right.
the sports sedan. First time I was ever in one was sideways with my friend's dad, who was a race instructor.
Yeah.
And the sound of this engine bouncing off the rev limiter in the snow, just core memory.
You know, it's so funny. The era that really gets maligned as not being much was the 50s. But there was so much exciting stuff in the 50s. You had like my Daimler Dart. You had that little V8 engine, 2.5 liter, 180 horsepower. It was like the original Sunbeam Tiger. You had all kinds of stuff like that. That Rover V8 was being put in everything. Jaguars, twin cam, 6-cylinder engines from 1948. I mean, all kinds of cool stuff. Cunninghams and hybrids. In those days, hybrids meant European body, American drivetrain.
Right.
Yeah.
American V8. Speaking of Rover V8s, I bought an SD1. I don't know if that was
Rover SD1.
The Rover SD1, yeah.
How was that? Any good?
Yes. It is. It drives like $1 million.
Yeah.
The engine's a Rover, Buick V8, so it's not very powerful, but it's smooth. It's a wonderful car to drive, and I somehow got a reliable one. Knock on wood.
But let me ask you a question. Aren't a lot of your cars basically the same car? I mean, they're all sensible 4-seat.
I love that we can't keep up with the camera car.
No, this thing is very quick.
I like sedans. I like sort of upright cars, but I have an Elise.
Huh?
I have a Lotus Elise.
Oh, okay.
And a Ferrari 308.
Oh, you do have a Ferrari 308.
GT4, the sensible 4-seat one.
Oh, right. What year is that?
75.
So that's what, 220 horse?
Rated 240.
240.
No, but it's 240 Italian horses.
Is it any good? Do you like it?
I love it.
Oh, okay, good.
I've driven every old Ferrari, and I didn't like at all any of them. And then I drove that and offered to buy it on the spot. It's amazing.
Well, I'm going to say this handles very nicely. It really is an exciting car. Like you say, it's a 2-valve, single cam, right?
Ancient thing for its time. You know, it was a 60s tech single overhead cam motor. But it's a sweet motor. The best part about 80s German stuff is Germans had just figured it out. So driving down from San Francisco here is 400 miles. It's just 400 miles at 90 miles an hour. Or not that I would ever do such a thing.
Well, I always remember the story. I took a Corvette to the Autobahn in Germany. And the Autobahn, all the German cars were limited to 155. But the Corvette went 172. So I was passing guys on the Autobahn. And I would pull into like a gas station or something, or a McDonald's. And kids, Corvette, yeah! I mean, you'd think it was, some Lamborghini or something. They just went nuts because they'd never seen one.
Well, and you couldn't get cases of beer through the trunk, Jay.
Couldn't get cases of beer through the trunk. But the funny thing was, I'm in Germany, and we're on the Autobahn, and I see some historic village, And as I pull in, there's a clock tower way over there, and there's a clock tower way over there. And we pulled in just about noon, and both hands went bong. You heard them both bonging at the same time. Okay. Continue driving, get to Italy. I pulled into a village, 2 clock towers. One hand is this way, the other, they both have the wrong time. Yeah. One hand is just going, chicken. I mean, it just made me laugh. Yeah. It was such a metaphor for the auto industry,
I bought a beater 325i sedan, so that I could drive this car without driving this car, without risking this one. I made this one a little too nice, a little too clean. So then I worry about the paint.
So what are you looking for? What is the car you have to have?
Cars I don't have.
Of all the things, I want to get one of those someday. What would it be?
I have a lot of cars. And I'm saying this is a joke, saying this to you. There's not all that much on my list. I kind of want a GMC Typhoon. Yeah. I want your Shogun.
Like Mazda Cosmo or a rotary.
I spent a lot of time in Cosmo.
Yeah.
So I did an 1,100-mile rally once in one.
Now, which Cosmo? The 2-seater Cosmo?
The original. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful car, isn't it?
Yeah. Totally charming. Fell in love with it. I could see myself with an 850 CSI BMW, but.
Now tell me about the Mercedes, the big coupe that you got. Is that the 12-cylinder?
That's the BMW. We are now announcing this on camera. I hadn't talked about this publicly. I bought an 850 CSI because I think back to David E. Davis's line that in everyone's life they should own a V12.
Right.
And I don't do automatics. And so, what V12 manual driver's car can you get, and without really breaking the bank?
Right.
Of course I want a McLaren F1, but I can't have that. And so the CSI was actually an M car. It was done by M. It is a BMW M VIN. And I kind of did it. I bought one. And I'm currently just going through it, making it up to my own standards, so mechanically perfect.
Does it live up to your expectation?
Right off the bat, yes, except that if the whole point of a 12 is the sound, it doesn't make any noise.
Well, that's exhaustion.
Yeah, I'm in the process of fixing that now. No, it's...
So what year is it?
94.
94, so it's a cat car.
Yeah, the cat, it's a US car, no problem with emissions. 375 horsepower.
I mean,
But
does Abarth and those companies, they still exist? Are they still around
to make stuff?
That used to be the big thing.
Not for that
The
one.
custom exhaust.
You know what I bought is 2 mufflers from a Ferrari 599, which fit right into the space there. So it's, got to be a little bit custom. But that, funny enough, that BMW V12 was literally 2 of these straight sixes.
Yeah.
Same pistons, same valves, same everything. But it's always funny to me that the 6-cylinder sounds better than the V12.
Yeah. Does this seem a bit notchy to you?
It is.
Yeah.
So that is a shifter from the E36 later, and the throws are just short enough that they don't match the rest of the controls in this car.
Do you think you ever use MTL? You ever use that?
It's MTLs in this.
Oh, you do have
Yeah,
MTL.
yeah.
That manual transmission look.
Yeah,
You know,
great.
I'm not a tune-up in the can guy, but I have to admit, even on my when I got my 426 Hemi Challenger, it was just I'm gonna let me put MTL in it. Oh my God! I mean,
night and day, right?
It really transformed it. It was like I got new synchros. I couldn't believe it. It notched right in, and it was really made a difference.
This episode of Jay Leno's Garage is sponsored by Redline Fluids,
Well,
the
I
maker
know,
of MTL.
Well, you know, they work.
It works. No, I have MTL in every one of the cars, and they go from in the morning grinding into second gear, or just a little graunch into third, gone.
Right.
Every one of the cars I've ever put it in. Yeah, it's the shifter on this car. It's just too short, so it's just too high effort. God, you asked such a good question. What else what's on my list that I will have one day?
Yeah.
Is it sad that there's not much? Or kind of not anything?
You're not a Porsche person.
I need to have a Porsche. I've had a 986 Boxster and a 996.
Well, you got rid of it.
I got rid of them both because they're not fun.
Really?
Yeah, I want short. You know what my Jason bait is Revy engine, stupid short gearing.
Right.
Just give me a ball at 30 miles an hour. Make me look down and go, oh my God, I'm only doing 30 with a big smile on my face.
Right.
So I have a Honda Beat for that. That's like the ultimate in this stupid department. The Porsches are all long-legged and they're serious.
Right.
An early short wheelbase 911 would shut me up.
Like a nice 66.
Yeah, that would shut me, especially with like some filthy cammed, angry.
You know what I have
motor.
there? I've got a 63 Carrera 2. Boy, and that is the greatest. You take the tack to 7 grand, just keep your foot in fourth gear. It's the best. It's really terrific. About 150, 160 horse, something like that.
That would shut me up.
Just a wonderful car.
That would really shut me up. I guess I need a Porsche. I don't have anything American either. I need something American.
Oh yeah, you got nothing. You don't have anything American.
I have the Rover, which has an American V8 in it, and then
Right.
British build quality on top of it. Very few American cars really do it for me, except for everything from the 60s, just because of the way it all looks.
Well, it's an interesting car. I've got the 2015 Mustang.
Mm-hmm.
They built 36 cars that year
Oh my God.
to honor the Shelby 350R.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the flat plane crank, independent suspension. It's a copy of the Ferrari motor, but it's 13 pounds lighter. And it's just fabulous. I mean, it's like a real sports car. It revs like crazy. It's 525 horsepower. You got more than enough power. It's just a wonderful car to drive.
I love those. I love them. That car came out, it's 8,200 RPM, right?
84.
84.
Yeah.
I just remember laughing. It sounds like Chewbacca.
I know.
Yeah. That'd be a must. If it's too big, I need little. That's why I
Yeah.
want a Cyclone or Typhoon.
It's a little big.
Cyclone. I need to have a Cyclone.
I have a Cyclone.
I know. You have the one room that has my 3 favorite cars of yours: the Tornado, the Cyclone, and the Shogun.
Well, you know how I got the Cyclone? My wife and I are going to look at Christmas trees, right? So let's go to Beverly Hills. They've got the best trees. All right, so we go to Beverly Hills. So she sees this tree and she goes, "I love this. This is the perfect tree." And it was $85, and that's when the good trees were $45. You know, I said, "Well, that's crazy, $85." You know, I said, all right. So I say to the guy, "Where's I got $85? Is it free delivery? Yeah, if you live within the radius." I said, where are you? I said, I'm on Beverly Hills, give me the address. He goes, that's a mile out. I go, well, I'll find you a more expensive street, but you still got to charge. I said, you know, wait here. And there was, I went across the street and I bought the siphon. It was in the showroom. And I came back and I put the tree in the back and I said, you know, thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you,
So
pal.
every year we took that to get the tree.
That is amazing. That's the most expensive delivery ever
Yeah, exactly.
on a Christmas tree.
It's the principle.
It's the principle. I would have done it. And you still have it.
Yeah, I still have it, yeah. That was the fastest vehicle General Motors produced in '91.
That was the fastest accelerating car in the world when it was made.
It was too light for heavy work and too heavy for light work.
It couldn't haul anything more than a Christmas tree.
No, you couldn't put 500 pounds at the end of the world.
But, you know, the idea of that with a manual and an LS swap, or just any V8 in it, yeah, that could make me start wearing
It's
them.
pretty powerful.
Oh, they're fast. I don't want more speed out of it.
V6
I just want more noise, because they don't make the most insane noises in the world.
But you sit bolt upright like this. There's no room.
No room. Yeah, but I love that.
Oh, yeah,
I have a Honda Beat and a Lotus Elise. I'm clearly a sadist.
But you never got into any of the MGs, TR6, TR5, TR4?
No, and I think the reason why is every time I drove one, I was let down by the engine.
Well, that is true. Yeah.
I'm kind of an engine.
The one I always dreamed about when I was a kid was the TR4A IRS. It was the TR4 Michelati body with independent rear suspension. Just a great car. Boy, you're so right. Once it hits $4 grand, boy, it really comes down to cam.
This is my favorite limiter of any car. Feel free to hit it if you want. It's at 6,900.
Yeah.
Just stupid things make me happy.
I always feel like I'm cheating if I hit the limit. I feel like I'm hurting the vehicle.
No, you're not gonna hurt this one.
Well, Jason, thanks again for coming. We always enjoy talking cars.
Thank you, Jay. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's fun talking cars and driving your idea of interesting stuff, which is also my idea. This is a great car that really does handle very, very nice. You know, by the 80s, I was kind of going full bore in my career, and so I just didn't pay attention to a lot of 80s cars. You know, it just sort of out of range, out of mind. Because by that point, I was buying up all the stuff from the 60s. You know, all the stuff I missed.
And it's what I love about car people, right? At that point, I was just reading. I didn't have a license yet, and I was reading every car magazine and fantasizing about all this stuff.
Yeah.
So now for me, this is the stuff that I grew up dreaming about.
Yeah.
And you were in a different place in your life.
It is funny how it is, because to me, the 60s were the era, and to me, Radwood cars, well, they're just like used cars.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, okay, yeah, it's good, I guess. But it's not a used car.
And I see that.
Yeah, but yeah.
With the young guys, the young guys at Cars and Coffee who are doting over their 2012 BMW M3. I'm like, I remember when that came out.
Right,
I drove that. I was on the press launch. It was, it's crap then, it's crap now. It's so funny how that happens, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm real anxious to hear about your BMW coupe, your M312. When you get into a little bit more, that might be a fun one to do. Last of the big V12s.
I'll bring it down. We'll come play again. What I love is your interest and my interest are so different that I get to give you a glimpse of something that
Yeah, no, it's great.
I love this.
Well, thanks for being a part of it, and
Thank you, Jay.
hope you enjoyed this trip down a rare BMW, one of the few Tourings in the United States. So, Jason, thanks again, and we'll see you guys next week.